Hello everyone, sorry for the delay in posting this video. Just to talk a little bit about what I do to bring myself back into alignment. There's probably, like everyone, there's lots of different ways, but the one I wanted to talk about was accessing a older, wiser, more compassionate side of myself. And this was a practice that kind of emerged for me, I think, a few years ago. I was living in London and had moved there alone and had started a new job, and I was feeling really overwhelmed and not sure how I could cope. I remember there was several months where just feeling, particularly with the job, feeling quite challenged. And I'm not sure whether this practice kind of emerged from within me as a gift, or whether I read something and kind of consciously started doing it. I can't quite remember, but I do remember this practice kind of started for me, and it was at the beginning kind of like a visualization where I would actually go and meet with this older woman. She wasn't necessarily me, at least in the beginning, but she was this very wise, kind, beautiful, sparkly eyes, this older woman who knew everything, had an incredibly calm presence, and actually she, I would always go and meet her in the downstairs, not quite a basement, but a downstairs level of this tall kind of grand house. I was living in North London at the time, so it was one of the beautiful houses that I would see around there, and thought it was significant, that she was kind of down there, in a beautiful room, and I could go to her and bring whatever was troubling me, and sit with her. And I think when I would do the visualization, I was able to experience myself, with the difficulty and the stress and the anxiety and the feeling of not being able to cope. And then I was able to feel into what she was feeling in that moment, which was just huge compassion, a kind of just deep knowing that everything was okay, no matter how difficult it seemed, that everything was going to turn out okay. And this kind of kindness and all-accepting presence. And of course it was kind of maternal, I suppose. Maternal presence, very feminine, and I do think actually there was an older lady that I used to see in the area, who maybe exemplified for me. I didn't know her, but when I saw her, she just seemed to have always a twinkle in her eye, and she looked like an artist, maybe in her late 70s, early 80s, with long grey hair, and I just thought she had a beautiful presence, and maybe she also was woven in there somewhere. But over time, this practice has stayed with me, and I would use it in different ways, maybe in the evening sit down and actually go through a visualization and go and visit this mature feminine presence. And then also, though, I was able to bring her to mind when I was, for example, at work, or just going through something difficult and didn't know how to respond or didn't know what to do, and I was able to just access her wisdom in that moment. And of course, over time, I realized, she is me as well. It is all the one. In the beginning, it was maybe a little bit more separate, but over time, I realized that she also is part of me, and I'm growing into her, I suppose. So I do still use that practice, maybe not quite as often as I did back then, but it's definitely a very important part of my toolkit. And a creative practice, I think. So thank you for listening.